Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Now the morning session is opened, and I would like to say a few words of introduction to about His Holiness, so we know who we are hearing from, because some of you might not know him. So this is His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami. He is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada since 1972. Yes. He distributed Srila Prabhupada's books from 73 to 75. Then he served as a Pujari Maharaj in Amsterdam, my city. I didn't know that. Amsterdam and Schloss Rettershof in Germany. And then between 77 and 79, he traveled and preached with nobody less than Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and Harikesh Maharaj, Bhakti Sudhir Goswami, Dwarkesh Prabhu, and Devamrita Swami throughout Eastern Europe. That must have been something. And then 1982 to 1985, he oversaw Lord Nrsingadev worship in Sringhachalam, Germany. In 1987, he became an initiating guru by the blessings of the GBC body. Then up to 1995, he helped compile and publish the big book Pancharatra Pradeep, ISKCON's manual for temple worship. He also served ISKCON's GBC as the minister for deity worship until 2005. I think you also, by the way, this beautiful photo is from this lovely magazine, Archana. I think you are also involved in this production of this magazine, right? Yes. So it's so great. I mean, I still have it. It's so wonderful. Okay, so then it went on and on. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, he served as the Minister for Deity Worship till 2005. And then he also, this was a different level, encouraged by ISKCON senior leaders, in 1995 he resumed formal academic study, which he had interrupted in 1972. And he completed a BA in religious studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where Giriraj Maharaj lives, and an MA in the study of religion at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, and then a Master of Studies in the study of religion at the University of Oxford, UK, and a Doctor of Philosophy, I think, Doctor of Philosophy, yeah, at the University of Oxford, and he finished his studies in 2003. Based on his doctoral dissertation, he then published Attending Krishna's Image, Chaitanya Vaishnava Murti Seva as Devotional Truth, with Routledge Hindu Studies series. He is now a research fellow of the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, and he also acts as the Dean of Studies at Bhaktivedanta College in Radijs, Belgium, where he has been teaching since 2002. It's also one of my temples, as during several previous years and now, continuing after his taking formal sannyas vows, Janmashtami 2014, Krishna-Kshetra Swami travels extensively for teaching, counseling, and to support spiritual communities in the Vaishnava devotional tradition. I say no more. Maharaj, the floor is yours.
Hare Krishna.
And please enlighten us.
Thank you, Rati Manjari Mataji, for that kind introduction. And thank you, Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu, for kindly inviting me to take part in this. As I understand, I should stop in about 20 minutes. Is that right? To
That's
keep
probably
to the
right.
schedule.
Yeah,
Okay.
more or less,
Okay.
2025. Yeah.
All right, so I'll keep it short. I will begin with not my earliest memory of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, but with one that went quite deeply into my memory. And this was on the occasion of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja in London in 1977. Some of you may know Srila Prabhupada made this incredible journey despite his health condition from Vrindavan to London in September of 1977. And it was the time of Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. So we were all blessed with Prabhupada's personal presence for his Vyasa Puja event. And what I especially remember from that event is Srila Prabhupada sitting in his makeshift palanquin the devotees had made to carry him because he was no longer walking, in the room in the manner which is used as now it's a kind of reception room, and standing immediately next to Srila Prabhupada and facing all of us who were facing Srila Prabhupada was Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was requested to speak the life story of Srila Prabhupada. And so imagine yourself being in a similar situation, being in the presence of your guru, especially your guru, who it's clear to everyone is preparing to leave the world. So in that situation, Tamal Krishna Maharaj very nicely told the whole story of Srila Prabhupada's life as he had heard from Srila Prabhupada in the course over the years during conversations. Sometimes Prabhupada would say something about his life in a lecture, but it was so interesting to see how he would sometimes look over to Srila Prabhupada to get confirmation if he was speaking properly, if he was representing Srila Prabhupada properly. And Prabhupada would turn slightly and gesture with his head. He would nod. Yes, it is like that. Yes, it was like that. And what we could see from that exchange was a deep mutual appreciation, I would say, especially, of course, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, deep appreciation, profound appreciation of Srila Prabhupada. The fact that he knew so much about Srila Prabhupada's life at that time, I think most of us knew very little about Prabhupada's life before he came to America. So that was a very striking moment for me, and I think for many other devotees. I would say, though, that my relationship with Tamal Krishna Goswami really began in 1995. I met him in Gainesville, Florida, and we were chatting, and the subject came up about my service and my future. And I explained to him that His Holiness Sri Dayananda Goswami was encouraging me to go back to university. And I was not certain what to do. I was thinking it's an interesting idea, but in those days especially, this was uncharted territory for devotees. Anyway, we were discussing, and as I explained how Maharaj Sri Dayananda Maharaj was encouraging me, I mentioned how devotees in Mayapur were encouraging me to be involved in the establishment of a Mayapur University, which Srila Prabhupada had spoken of wanting. And the devotees in Mayapur, I was objecting and saying that I don't have any academic qualifications, so how can I be involved in that? And the devotees in Mayapur were saying, oh, don't worry about that. For scholars, for professors, we will simply bring retired professors from India, from especially Calcutta, and they will teach in our university. They will be attracted and so on. And when I reported that to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he kind of slammed his fist on the table in front of him in a very forceful way and said, that's what's wrong with Mayapur. They're still thinking like hippies. And in the same breath, he said, you should go back to university. And he said it with such, there was no doubt in his mind, and then suddenly there was no doubt in my mind that this is what I should do. So it was very soon after that that I went back to university, And it was very soon after that that Tamal Krishna Goswami registered at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And then over the next few years, I was fortunate to be very much in contact with Goswami Maharaj, especially because of his interest to be connected with another devotee who was going through a similar process that he was. So Goswami Maharaj would call me on the phone. I was at University of California, Santa Barbara. He was in Dallas. And he would call me up and say, so, what's going on? What's happening? How is it going with your studies? What kind of issues are coming up in your classes? He would kind of interrogate me that way. And he would report the same about his own experience. And in this way, we were sharing notes, so to say. And this continued as eventually Goswami Maharaj finished in Dallas and proceeded to Cambridge in the UK. I finished in California and proceeded to Oxford in the UK. Then we a little bit changed our program. Instead of speaking by phone, I would go to Cambridge for a weekend, about once a month, and spend the weekend with Goswami Maharaj in his wonderful house, the Willow House, as it was called. And again, we would discuss and we would discuss and we would question, what are we doing and what is the purpose of all of this? And this leads me to a general point I want to express appreciation about Goswami Maharaj, is how utterly consequential he was. He was, with every move he made, everything he undertook, he was utterly and completely serious and consequential. Whatever he would do had to be first class. And it had to be significant. It had to have a purpose. And the bigger purpose that he saw for himself, I would say, and I've written about this in an article that I wrote about him called A Tremendous Connection, Reflections on TKG's Final Visit to Bhaktivedanta Manor. His bigger purpose, we can say, was to help us, devotees in ISKCON, to understand and appreciate the tremendous connection that we have with the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, first and foremost, of course, with Srila Prabhupada, but also the previous acharyas. And I explain in this article, because I'm speaking about this final visit and its significance, and the talk that Goswami Maharaj gave at that time, because that day was Vasant Panchami. It was a day of remembering the appearance and disappearance of several acharyas. It was also the day of Goswami Maharaj's, of his initiation into sannyas 30 years before. And so in the course of his talk, he is sort of weaving together all of these elements for himself and also for his audience in wonderful ways. As I said, he was very consequential in his actions, and one evidence of this, I would say, is the impact that he had in the academic world. And one indicator of this impact is the issue of the Journal of Vaishnava Studies that was dedicated to his memory. Satyaraj Prabhu, Stephen Rosen, who is the chief editor of the journal since 25 years or something now, he decided to dedicate one issue of the journal to Tamal Krishna Goswami. And the articles in this journal are all by the different scholars who were impacted by Tamal Krishna Goswami. There are 12 articles, including my own, and a 13th article, which is Tamal Krishna Goswami's article that he had begun with Ravi Gupta, Radhika Raman Prabhu, called Krishna and Culture, What Happens When the Lord of Vrindavan Moves to New York City. This was the title of this article. And I would say that much of Tamal Krishna Goswami's personal reflections, which he wrote about, especially in his book, A Hare Krishna at Southern Methodist University, he's reflecting on his own life. And so we might say that all of these reflections together could be called What Happens When an American young person in the middle of the 20th century moves to Vrindavan. So the kind of inverse of this article, which he actually wrote. And this reflection of Tamal Krishna Maharaj was inseparable from his reflections about the meaning, the significance of our movement as it is spreading all over the world, the significance of being rooted in the tradition of all the Vaishnava acharyas and finding roots now in the West. This was very much a concern of Tamal Krishna Goswami. This was very much part of the reason, I would say integral to his reason why he ventured into the academic world. I'll just end with a small somewhat humorous exchange I had with him soon after he moved to Cambridge and began working on his doctoral research and writing. And soon after I settled in, well, I had been in Oxford a bit longer. He called me up and he said, you know, I was beginning to, I was studying Sanskrit in Dallas as part of my undergraduate course. I did 1 year of formal study of Sanskrit, and that was it was very, I enjoyed it very much, and I did very well. As we know, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was excellent in everything. He was the best student of his main professor in Dallas. That professor reported that he had been his best student in 35 years of teaching. He said, but now the work I'm doing does not require Sanskrit because I'm researching about Srila Prabhupada. I'm writing about Srila Prabhupada and his work in the English language. But I'm worried that I'm going to lose what I have learned. I'm going to forget what I've learned of Sanskrit. So what should I do? He was asking me for advice, as he would often do. He would ask devotees for advice on so many things. He would consult. So he asked me, what should I do? So I made a few suggestions. I said, well, Maharaj, if you were working on the Brahma Samhita, so why not now take that and make an analysis, a grammatical analysis of every verse of Brahma Samhita? No, that's not it. Why don't you, I gave 2, 3, 4 suggestions of what he might do to keep, through self-study, keeping up his Sanskrit. And each one he rejected. He said, no, that's not going to work. Finally, he said, the only way that I'm going to be able to keep up the Sanskrit practice is if there is money in it. I said, Maharaj, what do you mean? He said, if you will agree, then we'll make a deal. You're working also on Sanskrit. So if each of us promises that every day we will be spending a certain amount of time working on her Sanskrit, that if one day we miss, then the person who misses has to admit and has to pay the other of us a certain amount for that day missed. And I said, yeah, okay, why not? And then we discussed how much should we pay, and we started with £1. And Maharaj said, no, come on, £1, that's nothing. It's no point, that's useless. So we ended up, it was going to be £5. £5 if you missed. And then Maharaj said, but let's make this for 5 days a week, okay? Not 7, because, things come up. So 5 days. All right, 5 days a week. And for how long? 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes. So this was the deal. And it was concluded when Maharaj said, and you can be 100% sure that I am never going to have to pay you for this. I'm never going to miss a day because I will never stoop down to paying you for this. So that was kind of, nice, sweet exchange we had. We did keep it up for, several months. And then circumstances changed. So my last conversation with Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was again asking me for advice. He wanted to get some ideas how to write the final chapter of his doctoral dissertation. And I had no idea, because he was writing about Srila Prabhupada and Raga Nuga Bhakti, how to write that chapter. So that was our final conversation. He was living in Oxford by that time. He did not come back as we expected him the day we expected him. Krishna had another plan. But I want to say that the book, the final writing of him, which was completed finally, eventually, by His Grace Garuda Prabhu, A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, Essential Teachings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is Goswami Maharaj's, we can say, magnum opus, and certainly it deserves all attention by all of us devotees, appreciating how he was attempting to reach out to the educated audience, the wider world, to give them appreciation of Srila Prabhupada and the wonderful tradition of Krishna Bhakti that Srila Prabhupada gave us all. So I will stop there. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's very, very interesting to hear from you being in his the same field of exploration, I mean, accomplishment rather, the studies. It's so nice to have you with us, Maharaj, that you actually, because you know what it means. You know, yeah, you did so many studies and you accomplished things. I'm sure he was delighted to have your company. Personally, actually, I heard that His Holiness Giridhari Swami is not there yet, so you can carry on.
Oh.
And yes, I don't know how long, but we would like to hear more. So I just wanted to ask you, I actually was fortunate to visit Goswami Maharaj at Willow House, but of course many have not. So could you maybe if it's not too, if it's to your liking, could you express a little bit what was the feeling of that house? I mean, what was it like? What do you remember of it? Because we had a photo, I mean, we had video yesterday of the beautiful Dallas temple, but very few people have visited Goswami Maharaj there. So could you give us some of your impressions?
Okay. Somehow it very much fit to Goswami Maharaj's character. This was a house that had been built in the 1930s. It was designed by an architect. It was in this Art Deco style. And it was very spacious, and it had a very large garden space around it. It was a very elegant house. I never dared to ask how much they were paying rent for it. I thought it must be a fortune. Of course, devotees, especially one lady, as I understood,
Shamalasaki.
financing it. Sorry?
Shamalasaki.
Yes, Shamalasaki.
Running a nursing agency. And
yes,
apparently, getting good revenue, and she was paying for the Willow House. She paid towards the studies. She was financing practically the whole thing, as far as I understand. Yeah, very glorious service. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what more can I say about that house? The thing was, though, he had all facility, but as we know, Tamal Krishna Goswami loved to have devotee association, and there were just not very many devotees in the Cambridge area. So he had his servant and his secretary with him, staying with him. Sarvabhauma Prabhu, I'll never forget, later when they came to Oxford, and this is the point, he finally moved to Oxford just to get more company of devotees. He didn't need to be in Cambridge anymore. He could finish his dissertation in Oxford. But one time in Oxford, maybe Sarvabhauma won't mind my saying.
He's online. He's online, right?
Oh, he's online. Oh, please forgive me, but
can you come on like with your screen on if you're able to, Sarvabhauma Prabhu? I see you. Okay. Go ahead. Where is he now?
So Sarvabhauma.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
My dear moderator, can you show Sarva Prabhu? His name is Peter Medley. Please show him on the screen.
I see. Yes.
I mean for everybody, because he's not on the broad screen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this person, this Sarvabhauma Prabhu, is a saint. Yes, there he is. Jai Prabhu, nice to see you. Hare Krishna. He
Yes,
has done so much
Sarvabhauma
service.
has a heart of gold, and sometimes he was, as we say in America, a little spaced out in his service. And this was not appreciated by TKG. So I remember one time Goswami Maharaj said, when I finish my dissertation and finish my degree, Sarvabhauma and I are getting a divorce.
Oh, oh, my goodness. So,
Didn't he say that? You were present, wasn't it?
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right, yeah.
yeah, but he was there and he stuck it out. You know,
He did,
I
yeah.
came to visit and I saw how hard he was working, and it was
He was resilient. I think a lot of others would have run away because, as we know, Goswami Maharaj could be really heavy.
the range of fire, easy
Yeah.
to get burned, very easy. Yes, but
Sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes it was embarrassing to me because, as we also know, Goswami Maharaj was a real connoisseur of prasadam, and he had high standards. Prasadam had to be first class. Everything had to be first class. And if something was not quite right in the prasadam, you'd be there with Goswami Maharaj taking prasadam, and he would call in the cook and he would give the sauce. And you'd want to say, Maharaj, it's not bad, it's okay, you know. But no, he would do that. Yeah, what more? Maybe I could read a short paragraph. This was Goswami Maharaj's part of his declaration when he made application to go back to the university, because I think it's very significant.
Yes.
Or is Giri Hari Maharaj there now? Okay.
You have a free space.
So I think this came toward the end of his sort of self-declaration for the application. He says, time is running out. I have perhaps another 20 years to serve. This was in 1995, he said this. I must seriously consider how I can best use this remaining time. Our movement is now firmly established. Hare Krishna is a household word around the world. Yet I think that we are still largely misunderstood by others. Rooted in their own cultures and traditions, they often find our ways strange. To help them understand, we must first seek to know them better, their history, their mores, their faiths, to transmit the finer aspects of Krishna consciousness. We must first educate our own members. An intelligent, learned clergy with broad educational backgrounds will be able to relate our teachings and traditions to those of other persuasions. Both will be benefited. And I go on to mention that I think Goswami Maharaj was seeing himself as wanting to become part of a learned clergy, and therefore he was taking these steps. But of course, what he wanted as a result of all this was to establish at least one institution for devotees, a Vaishnava college or university in India, not exactly in Mayapur. He wanted something maybe between Kolkata and Mayapur, but he wanted to facilitate a place for devotees so that our society would also develop a learned clergy, as he put it. Yes, I could mention one more, not direct memory, but something that Goswami Maharaj describes in some detail in his book, Servant of the Servant. And to that, more generally, maybe, I do want to say that, of course, most, if not all of you who are listening now have great appreciation of Goswami Maharaj as an author. But I want to call your attention, if you haven't already noted, the wide variety of his writing. I mentioned already the academic work that he did. There's also this book, Servant of the Servant, which is, we can say, autobiographical, but essentially meant to glorify Srila Prabhupada. There is his drama of Lord Jagannath, which was really very innovative because he was, he was, it was also a scholarly work because he was drawing from the tradition of Sanskrit drama in order to write his own drama, which then he continued with his drama about the departure of Srila Prabhupada, TKG's diary. And then again, I mentioned before his largely autobiographical book, A Hare Krishna at Southern Methodist University, in which he included several of his assignments that he had written for different classes that he had taken. And in those articles, he is often autobiographical in a very candid way and a very amazing way. Also, his book, Reason and Belief, which grew out of that same time and scholarship work at Southern Methodist University. But finally, I want to mention his novel, and actually we can say two novels, yes, Back Home, and the previous one, the one before this, he wrote The Story of Li Guangxi, Li Guangxi. And if you have not read these, I can only say 50% of your life is wasted. No, they're really well done. The second one is co-authored with Kalachandji Prabhu, Karl Herzig, who is the younger brother of Tamal Krishna Goswami, who is a professor of English and English literature at Iowa State University, I believe it is. Both very amazing books and very inspiring. And I can say that just a few days ago, I received an email from a young new devotee in Beijing. He is just very early in the process, and he has read, I'm not sure which of the two he has read, but he was deeply moved by this book. And he said, basically, this has changed his life, which is exactly what Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted. He wanted to write a book for Chinese people to be able to catch what it is to be a devotee, what it is to practice devotion, and at the same time, to not ignore their own traditions of Chinese culture. And for this, Goswami Maharaj did a lot of research also. He was consequential
Yes.
in everything he did. Yes.
Yes, I remember reading or hearing that as a younger man, teenager, he already was interested in China and China.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure you know the story of how it happened that he started, how Srila Prabhupada sent him there.
Please tell it.
He had been leading the Radha Damodar traveling party in America. They had a large number. They had 6 of these full-length buses. They had several smaller. They had more than 100 devotees. But for whatever reason, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was asked to step away from that service. And then he had a conversation with Srila Prabhupada where Goswami Maharaj was, it was unclear to him, what am I supposed to do now? He had really dedicated himself to that service, and now, in effect, you could say the service was taken away from him. So what am I supposed to do now? Maybe I should just go to China. And Srila Prabhupada he was saying it as a joke, like this was like, maybe I should just go to the moon and preach on the moon.
Yeah.
And he was saying it as a joke. Prabhupada was completely silent. And Goswami Maharaj saw that Prabhupada is now taking seriously what he just said as a joke. So Goswami Maharaj said, Prabhupada, I was just joking. And Prabhupada said, Vaishnavas don't joke. Of course, Vaishnavas do joke, but what he meant by that was when a Vaishnava speaks, there's significance to that. And so Prabhupada immediately took that as Krishna speaking through Goswami Maharaj that, yes, he should go to China. And so Prabhupada said, yes, you should go to China. And that's how it all started.
Isn't there, that's the same incident, I believe, so he didn't want to go. And then Srila Prabhupada, he said, I'm not going, I'm not doing it. And then Srila Prabhupada was putting on his tilak, and Goswami Maharaj was watching, and Srila Prabhupada, his finger, he became so angry that his finger was shaking as he was putting on the tilak. and then he said, either you go to China, or I take everything away from you, and you can just sit down in Mayapur and chant.
I had heard that. I had forgotten about that. Yes.
Yes. Actually, I think the Srila Prabhupada didn't say anything when he said it, but the next day or later the day, then Prabhupada gave him this thing, because then his Trivikram Swami came to him, to Goswami Maharaj, and said, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you. And Trivikram Swami was preaching in the Orient. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was thinking, oh. So, and as Maharaj was approaching him, he said, or I'm not going. So he already felt something was up. And then he came to the room, and then Prabhupada told him, and he said he wouldn't do it. And then, yeah, but he surrendered, as he always did. He always surrendered to Prabhupada. What a wonderful example, and what an amazing result for those devotees who missed the session of yesterday. We started in the morning, which is Grace Eka Chakradas and her Grace Eka Janava Devidasi, and who's a Chinese lady who translated practically the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna book, Bhagavad Gita, all the small books. I mean, yes, China has opened up, and it was, again, as you were describing, Maharaj, also this amazing feat of opening up this huge communist country to Krishna consciousness. There was a lot of strategy. Goswami Maharaj was studying the culture, even the time. There was a time when he said, okay, I'm going to do it. And Srila Prabhupada was still on the planet. And Srila Prabhupada said, somehow or other, they came to the conclusion, this is not the right time. So it wasn't, he was determined, but he wasn't a tank. You know, he was also a strategist. He thought, okay, then it's not the time. But then he didn't give up on it. Later on, he did it very successfully. Have you seen, Maharaj, this book? Of course you have, of the descriptions of autumn, and with the Chinese artist making drawings.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this was another idea that he taught how to make this cultural conquest. How to bridge the cultures with the art of the Chinese and the wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Indeed.
So refined. You know?
I have one more very short thing to read. Quote. It's Tamal Krishna Goswami himself, if I may.
Yes.
He spoke this. This was part of his speaking at Bhaktivedanta Manor on that Basant Panchami day, and he is speaking about his taking sannyas in Jaipur 30 years before.
Yes.
And after he received sannyas, he went immediately out preaching, and some days later he came back. And here, Goswami Maharaj says, Prabhupada cleared the room, sent everybody out. Then he asked me how the preaching was. And I told him how it was in Ahmedabad. Then he did a very touching thing at the end. He got up from behind his little desk and he came over to me and took me in his arms. He pressed me very tightly. He put his head on one side of my head, then on the other side, and then the other side again. And he said, quote, now take that sannyas mantra in your heart, keep it always in your heart, and go and preach everywhere. I explain just after this that I consider this moment as the completion of the sannyas initiation that Prabhupada had initiated some days before. So that blessing Prabhupada gave, that unreserved blessing, is something I cherish thinking about, remembering. I wasn't there to see, but to remember this, what Goswami Maharaj reports to us.
Yeah, and don't you find that it's so magnanimous that he would share such a thing even?
Yes.
I mean, it's really like he was already noticing that Prabhupada is sending everybody out, that hardly ever happens. What's going to happen now? It's like it's really intimate. It was just meant for him, actually.
Yeah.
But as a Vaishnava who's like non-envious and wants to share the best he has and he's received, he actually just writes that down and he shares it. And it's very, I mean, it's inspiring you, it's inspiring me, it can inspire anybody now because it's public, kind of, it's available.
Yes.
So that also says a lot that also I heard. I was not there yet, but the god brothers and the god sisters of Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj, the devotees in the time of Srila Prabhupada's physical presence, many of them also appreciated that, yes, he took a lot of service, he had positions, but he was also very expert in involving others, like he did with the Radha Damodar party when he had made so many devotees. Srila Prabhupada was questioning whether he should actually continue to preach or come back to India to manage again, because it was impossible to replace him apparently at some point. So Prabhupada wanted him back, but he said that I'm preaching and it's very significant. Prabhupada, what is that preaching? You know, preaching means results. And then somehow or other, it was all orchestrated that he asked all these devotees coming in, the new bhaktas, like dozens, you know, and all of them were all fresh, shaved up, all in orange, and they all offered Prabhupada a rose and then full dandavats.
Yeah.
So, and then Prabhupada was beaming that this is results, you know, and then he allowed him to stay at Radha Damodar party.
Yeah,
So it was, he was never, he was forceful, he was powerful, he was impossible sometimes to stand, but he was always doing it for the higher good, for spreading Krishna consciousness.
Yes, and he was consequential.
Yes.
I see that Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami Maharaj has come.
Yes, I see it too. So I want to sincerely thank you very much, Krishna-ksetra Maharaj, Your Holiness, for also giving more of your time, which you didn't plan to when you were scheduled for like half hour ago. So we really appreciate, all of us appreciate your extra time and your very meaningful readings also. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I posted in the chat the link to that lecture that Maharaj is referring to, as it is posted on the TKG TM website.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, so the link is in the chat. If you're curious now, click on it and you can hear the whole presentation. So that's good.
Well, my thanks to you, Rati Manjari Mataji, and to all the devotees. Thank you, Mataji, for your kind encouragement to keep speaking.
Oh, I have more. I want more, but anyway, we have to stick to the schedule and respect everybody. Perhaps another time you can come and speak more, as I'm sure you have much more. And you look also, I like how you draw in different written things. I never heard of this application of Maharaj to SMU. Is that a public document? Is that somewhere, or is that in your private?
I don't know. I don't even remember how I got the portion which I incorporated in my article. That's some years ago.
Okay. Where can we get that article? Can we read it? Is it public or?
It's in the Journal of Vaishnava Studies, volume 11, number 2, spring 2003.
Is it digital also?
I have an unofficial digital copy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to share it. But
how would we find out?
Well, Satyaraj Prabhu, he is the editor of the journal. So I think he would be the person to ask.
All right. I'm writing it down. I hope to get to it soon. Thank you so much. And please accept our humble obeisances.
Thank you. Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai. Gaur Premanande. Haribol. Jai. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. And stay around if you can, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hi.